Scientists found strange life beside the deepest underwater eruption ever seen. Almost 4,000 feet beneath the Pacific Ocean, sunlight has completely disappeared. The pressure is crushing, the water is freezing cold, and just ahead, the seafloor is glowing. Molten rock is pouring from an active underwater volcano. Explosions send fragments of lava into the darkness. Hot chemicals pour into the surrounding water. It looks like one of the last places on Earth where anything should want to live. And then the cameras see something moving. Shrimp, living astonishingly close to the active volcanic environment. This is West Mata, an underwater volcano in the northeast Lao Basin of the Pacific Ocean. In 2009, scientists using the remotely operated vehicle Jason descended to roughly 1,200 meters and directly witnessed an active deep-sea volcanic eruption. NOAA described it as by far the deepest submarine eruption directly observed at that time. But the eruption itself was only half the surprise. Because scientists were not looking at a dead volcanic wasteland, life was there too. And that raises a much bigger question. How can animals survive next to an erupting volcano, deep underwater, without sunlight? To understand that, we first have to understand how strange this part of Earth really is. Most people imagine volcanoes on land, mountains, smoke, lava flowing down a hillside. But much of Earth's volcanic activity actually happens beneath the ocean. The seafloor contains enormous volcanic systems where Earth's crust is created, pulled apart, recycled and reshaped. NOAA notes that most volcanic eruptions on Earth occur beneath the ocean, although observing them directly is extremely difficult. West Mata gave scientists an unusual opportunity. They could actually watch the process happening. The remotely operated vehicle Jason was lowered from a research vessel on a fiber optic cable, allowing scientists at the surface to see live images from nearly 4,000 feet below. On the first dive, the team found an eruption near the volcano's summit. Imagine controlling a robotic vehicle in complete darkness. The only world you can see appears in the beams of its lights. Black volcanic rock, clouds of material, glowing lava. Then suddenly the seafloor erupts. Hot molten material escapes from inside Earth into water under enormous pressure. And remarkably, the eruption does not behave exactly like the volcanoes we see on land. Deep water changes everything. The pressure of the ocean can strongly influence how gases escape from magma and how submarine eruptions behave. At West Mata, scientists documented explosive volcanic activity and lava flowing directly across the deep seafloor. The lava itself was unusual. West Mata was producing a type of lava called boninite. Modern eruptions of boninite are rare to observe directly, and the West Mata samples gave scientists an unusual opportunity to study newly produced material associated with tectonic environments, where one plate descends beneath another. But now we reach the really strange part. The water surrounding an underwater volcano can be chemically extreme. At West Mata, NOAA reports that some water samples were extraordinarily acidic, comparable in acidity to substances such as stomach acid or battery acid. Hot volcanic fluids can also contain chemicals that would make the environment hostile to many familiar forms of life. There is no sunlight down here. Plants cannot grow the way they do on the surface. The pressure is enormous, and an active eruption is occurring nearby. So why were shrimp there? Because deep-sea ecosystems can operate according to a completely different energy system from the one we experience on land. At Earth's surface, almost every familiar food chain begins with sunlight. Plants capture solar energy. Animals eat plants. Other animals eat those animals. But around hydrothermal vents, sunlight is unnecessary. Microorganisms can use chemical reactions involving compounds emerging from the seafloor to produce energy. This process is called chemosynthesis. Those microorganisms can form the foundation of entire ecosystems around deep ocean vents. That discovery changed the way scientists thought about life on Earth. Before hydrothermal vent ecosystems were discovered, it was easy to imagine that complex ecosystems ultimately needed sunlight. But deep beneath the ocean, scientists found communities supported by energy coming from Earth's interior instead. Chemicals, minerals, heat, and geological activity. At West Matter, researchers observed shrimp living near some of the volcano's active areas while molten lava was erupting nearby. That does not mean the shrimp are swimming through molten rock. The temperatures inside lava would destroy them instantly. The important point is that the volcanic environment creates many different microhabitats. Extremely hot fluid can mix rapidly with near-freezing deep ocean water. Conditions can change dramatically over very short distances. A location lethal to an animal may sit surprisingly close to another location where specialized organisms can survive. And these organisms are not simply ignoring the danger. They are adapted to a world very different from ours. Deep ocean animals can tolerate pressures that would be impossible for many surface species. Vent communities can live around unusual chemical environments. Microbes can exploit compounds that humans would normally associate with toxic or hostile conditions. The volcano becomes both a danger and a source of energy. That is the paradox. Without the geological activity, much of the ecosystem may lose the chemical energy supporting it. Too close to the eruption, however, and the environment becomes destructive. Life survives in the narrow space between those two extremes, and scientists have found even stranger examples elsewhere. Hydrothermal vents around the world support specialized worms, crustaceans, mollusks, microbes, and other organisms. NOAA notes that these systems can support thermophilic and even hyperthermophilic microorganisms adapted to extremely hot environments. This creates a fascinating question. If life can survive here, where else could it survive? Consider Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's moon Enceladus. Scientists believe both worlds contain subsurface oceans. If water interacts with warm rock beneath their icy surfaces, chemical energy could potentially exist there too. We have no confirmed evidence of life in those oceans, but Earth's deep-sea vents give scientists a real example of how ecosystems can exist without sunlight. That makes places like West Matter more than geological curiosities. They become natural laboratories for studying the limits of life. And there is another reason these discoveries matter. Some scientists have proposed that environments around deep-sea hydrothermal systems may offer clues about conditions where early life on Earth could have developed. We do not know exactly where life began, but the combination of water, minerals, chemical gradients and energy found around hydrothermal systems makes them important environments in research on life's origins. NOAA notes that some researchers consider deep ocean hot springs plausible environments for early life. So imagine what the scientists watching Jason's cameras were actually seeing. On one screen, Earth creating new volcanic rock. On another, animals surviving beside that process. Geology and biology occupying the same tiny patch of seafloor. One system trying to destroy, the other adapting fast enough to survive. And the more scientists explore the ocean, the more obvious another problem becomes. We have barely seen it. A 2025 analysis published in Science Advances estimated that humans have visually observed only a tiny fraction of the deep seafloor. That means West Matter may not be unusual because strange life exists there. It may only seem unusual because this is one of the places where we happen to point a camera. There could be countless volcanic environments, vent fields, and isolated ecosystems waiting in deep water that humans have never directly observed. So how do scientists search for them? Not by sending divers. At these depths, humans need machines. Sonar maps the seafloor. Sensors detect chemical changes in the water. Autonomous underwater vehicles can survey huge areas. Remotely operated vehicles descend with cameras, robotic arms, and sampling equipment. Then researchers look for clues: a change in water temperature, unusual chemical concentrations, a plume rising from the seafloor, fresh volcanic material, and sometimes movement, something alive where nobody expected it. West matter also demonstrates something important about the word habitable. Humans tend to define a comfortable environment using human standards: moderate temperature, sunlight, air, low pressure, fresh water. But life itself is much less demanding about our preferences. Organisms occupy acidic lakes, frozen environments, hot springs, deep rock, ocean trenches, and chemical ecosystems where sunlight never arrives. Life does not require Earth to be comfortable for humans. It requires an environment where some organism can obtain energy, maintain chemistry, and reproduce. That distinction matters enormously when we search for life elsewhere. We should not only search for another Earth, we should search for chemistry, energy, liquid environments, and places where those ingredients remain stable long enough for biology to exploit them. That may be the biggest lesson hidden beside an underwater volcano. The shrimp are interesting, the lava is spectacular, but together they reveal something larger. Earth has places where fire and water meet, where sunlight disappears, where crushing pressure surrounds everything, and yet biology still finds a way to occupy the edge. West Mata was not the deepest volcano in the ocean, but its 2009 eruption became a landmark because scientists were able to directly watch an extraordinarily deep submarine eruption while observing life in the surrounding volcanic environment. And somewhere else in the ocean tonight, something similar may be happening. A crack opens in the seafloor, magma rises, chemicals pour into the water, microorganisms begin exploiting them, animals gather, an ecosystem forms in total darkness. No forests, no sunlight, no blue sky, just a world powered from below. And perhaps the strangest part is not that life exists there. It is that, after exploring only a tiny part of Earth's deep ocean, we still have no idea how many worlds like this are hiding beneath us.